Hi everyone, it's Andrew from the Ibrox channel, a podcast. I hope you're all doing well and getting ready, getting geared towards the end of the week because, of course, I'm recording now on Thursday, and it won't be long before the weekend is upon us, which is always good because Rangers are back at the weekend, and of course, we have a home game. I'm using the bunny ears here for everyone listening on the audio podcast. So we are at Hampden for the 3 p.m. kickoff against Ross County. So I thought I'd do a little preview, a little bite-sized preview, just to show you what I think about Ross County at the minute and how I think we might possibly set up. So let's get to it. So Ross County. Now, they've had a bit of an interesting season so far. Not a terrible start, but not a great start either from Don Cowie's men. Cowie was, of course, appointed in May, I think it was, after Ross County survived in the top flight with a 6-1 aggregate win over Wraith Rovers. Now, they won all their League Cup group stage games relatively comfortably. However, those teams were Hamilton, Stirling Albion, Wraith Rovers, and Stranraer. So, obviously lower league opposition they were facing. They were kind of the top seeds in their Premier Sports Cup group. However, saying that, in the league, they've not lost a game yet. However, they haven't won one either. So they've had two draws, a 0-0 draw against Motherwell at Fir Park, a game which seemed fairly even when looking at the stats. However, County only managed 13 touches in the opposition box, vice Motherwell's 23. So that tells you a lot about Ross County's attacking play in that game. Both teams faced around 3 shots on target each. Certainly wasn't a classic. However, the point probably favoured County a little bit more than Motherwell, for being honest. That's a bit of a tough away fixture for them being at Fir Park, and it was a decent way for them to start the season, to be fair. Second game was against newly promoted Dundee United, so possibly a team they might be scrapping with down towards the bottom of the table. Now, the second game was a bit of a weird result. County missed a good few chances in the first half. Eamon Brophy missed a penalty, which was saved by the keeper. However, the highlight of the game, which is something you probably saw on the socials, which is where Dundee United's Miller, I think was it Thompson, I can't think. Was it Miller Thompson? Can't remember his name now, so apologies. But he missed the sitter of sitters after, I think it was around about 9 seconds of the game. It wasn't long into the match at all. The mad thing was it was County that had kick-off as well. Thompson immediately robbed Will Nightingale from kick-off. York van der Sande went straight through on goal, rounded the keeper, squared it to Thompson, who not only missed the empty net from about 2 yards out, but he managed to launch the ball over the stand and out of the ground. So, as Peter Kay would say, have it. But yeah, so that was definitely one that won't be in the Ross County end of season highlight reel. That's for sure. But this isn't the first time that Ross County have been caught on the ball. This is something that's happened to them a few times this season. They've been caught like a rabbit in the headlights a couple of times on the ball like that, and have lost the ball in dangerous areas as well. Now, if we have someone like Matondo or Diamandi pressurising their defence, it could bear fruit because they do have a mistake in them. Now, much like Rangers, though County did dominate their chances, however, they just weren't clinical in that game against Dundee United. They had 21 shots in the game, which is great for a side staving off relegation last season. We do have to be honest there. So 21 shots, but then that I wouldn't say that's necessarily expected, but Dundee United are a newly promoted side, so they are probably one of the more weaker teams. So they probably are gonna face a lot more shots than some of the teams up towards the top six, top 7 of the table. Now, fair play and fair credit to County. One of the best examples of never say die. Despite the first half dominance, they did drop off in the second half, but there was a late flurry of changes by Don Cowie. So they took on FT for Brown, Greaves for Robertson, and Allardyce for Jordan White. So them subs come in between 74 minutes and 83 minutes, and they really did make a difference. They were rewarded at the death when Ronan Hale scored in the 95th minute to salvage a point against Dundee United. That is a result that's going to really hurt Dundee United because, of course, they missed that absolute sitter in the first seconds of the game, and of course, never saw out the game to get the win. Where if you get the win, it doesn't really matter, does it? But Yeah, so a never say die attitude there from Ross County to ensure that they didn't end with the first defeat of the season. However, you'd think they'd be kind of pepped up. You'd think that, that would spur them on a little bit and get them going. Well, their next game was it was down at Spartans, the newly promoted League Two side. And they've responded to life in the SPFL League setup quite well, actually. They've had a few decent wins in their League Cup groups, including a great 1-0 win over Livingston and a 5-0 win over League One Cove Rangers, which is just unbelievable, really. That's a fantastic result for them in their Premier Sports group stage cup games. But you look at a team like Ross County, the players they've got, you wouldn't think that Spartans could really lay a glove on them. They might be able to frustrate them a bit, but they should at least win fairly comfortably that game. Well, the desire not to lose should have been there, really, especially after the fight back against Dundee United. And they should have had enough to dispatch Spartans, and they didn't. Granted, it was a slightly changed up side. Brown was in for Efete at right back, Greaves and Allardyce in for Laturi, and Chilvers in midfield. But that was mainly it. It was still a strong side. Brophy was on the bench for this one, but did come on later on in the game. So, it's still a fairly strong side. County's weaknesses seem to be with conceding chances right after kickoff. That's something that's been really apparent this season. Twice already, that has happened since the SPFL season has kicked off. So that's a little bit of a red flag for Ross County. And, obviously, as I mentioned, we saw it after 9 seconds with the United miss. But then we saw it here. It was the start of the second half against Spartans. Blair Henderson scored a header. It was 20 seconds into the second half. That goal proving to be the winner for Spartans, which is just a phenomenal result for them. A win which will live long in the memory. Now, interestingly, County had less shots in the game. They had 8 shots with 5 on target compared to Spartans 7 with 3 on target. So you look back to that Dundee United match with the 21 shots, things started to come together a little bit there by the sounds of it in attacking play, but gilt edge chances, not a lot. So they were taking shots, but they probably were quarter chances, half chances, blown high and wide. So yeah, a little bit of a worry for Ross County. But then you can make comparisons with Rangers a little bit. We create a lot of chances in a game, but we're not clinical enough. We'll have plenty of shots, not necessarily hell of a lot on target, but we will have shots on target. We'll have more shots on target than some of the other teams in the league, but we won't have those clinical chances because we're still, in an attacking sense, not fully there yet. Now, this is going to be interesting because obviously Don Cowie, the Ross County manager, reckons there's going to be a bit of a response from Ross County from this. But can they really do anything at Hampden on Saturday? Now, will we see a different Ross County? Yes and no. I doubt if we'll see them with the usual 4-4-2 setup. They've used that quite a lot this season. A little bit old school. You don't see too many 4-4-2s anymore, but they do use it, and they do use it effectively. But they are lacking in an attacking sense. Now, this is partly due to some of the players they've lost over the summer. They've lost, of course, Jan Danda to Hearts, who we saw in the opening game of the season. Lost him on a free transfer, so that's not a bad transfer for Hearts. He'll do quite well there. He'll help Shanklin create goals there. Don't get me wrong, Hearts have their own problems at the minute, but yeah, that's definitely a bit of a loss for Ross County there. They lost Josh Sims, their winger. He went to, I think it was Yeovil even at town, down here in sunny England. They also lost Ross Callahan, sorry, down to Motherwell on a free transfer. So they're kind of the main players that they did lose in the summer. Players that they brought in, there's a couple of players that you will know. So Ricky Lammy, of course, the centre back from Motherwell, a good SPFL journeyman there. Noah, I think is it Chilvers, has been brought in attacking at midfield, brought in from the English League setup. And Ronan Hale, centre forward from, I think, Cliftonville over in Ireland. So they're mainly the players they've brought in. They have loaned a player from Hearts, Aidan Denham, for central midfield. And of course, Jack Hamilton, goalkeeper, brought in from Livingston. So not necessarily like for like replacements, Obviously, they've had to do a lot of free business over the summer, but Jan Danda for me is a big loss for Ross County. We saw in a couple of games last season where, especially the game that they did beat us, where he was causing us problems. Now, players that do cause us problems, Jordan White, it's you just know if you head to the bookies, put money on him at least scoring a goal. Because it probably will happen. I think he's more likely of the players there. Now, of course, Eamon Brophy, um, he gave us a torrid time when he was at Kilmarnock a couple of seasons ago, but not seen too much of him this season. And of course, he did miss that penalty in the opening game for Ross County. So yeah, he's not started many games. He started the cup match against Spartans, but oh, sorry, correction. He didn't start the cup match against Spartans. He came on in the cup match, I think against Spartans, if I remember right. But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one. When Ross County did beat us back in April, they set up with a 4-5-1 to really stop us playing through the middle. So that is a possibility. We've also seen them with a 3-4-1-2 when we last faced them at Ibrox. So that could be a little bit more of a realistic formation for when we face them at Hampden. Again, personally, I think it just depends what personnel is available. Um, they don't seem to be having an injury crisis by any stretch of the imagination. They don't seem to have too many players out. So, in a sense, they've probably got their strongest team available, but it's not as strong as what it could be. We've seen definitely stronger Ross County sides, even last year. But so I think it's either the 4-5-1 or the 3-4-1-2, probably potentially the 3-4-1-2. However, that can be a bit complex. Having the three at the back, having that extra kind of player in midfield. However, that can change to like either a back four or back five potentially, depending on what their tactics are off the ball. I think that's where possibly I think it might suit them a little bit better with a 4-5-1 to flood the midfield. Of course, we are probably just starting to kick on a little bit in a footballing sense. Obviously, we've got key players like Czerny, who will be able to open them up a little bit. Diamande, they will be the two players that Ross County will have to keep quiet. I think they're going to be the kind of key players for us. Now, Cortez has been spotted training. It might be too soon for him, possibly, so we might not see him on Saturday, but there is a possibility we could see him next week or into the week after, possibly. But it would be nice to see him out on the left. However, it probably will be too soon for him. I don't think he was fully up to speed yet anyway, before he got injured. But that's where Rabbi Matondo could play a bit of a part. Now, Rabbi Matondo, I think, played very well in his last game for Rangers there in the Cup against St Johnstone. I think he was linking up really well with Cyril Dessers. However, there's a lot of transfer speculation surrounding him at the minute. Obviously, there was a link with Leeds in the week for Matondo. That seems to have been rubbished by sources very close to Leeds. So they seem to be very reliable sources. So that seems to not be the case. This is the second time Matondo's been linked with Leeds, and it seems to be nothing in it. However, there is a link now which has come from the Daily Mail that Matondo has been linked with Blackburn Rovers. So I do believe the Venkies are still in charge there down at Blackburn. So it'll be interesting to see if he does go there. Is he better than Blackburn Rovers? Probably. However, he's not shown it enough, really. It's sad in a sense that he is starting to come onto a game a little bit based on the last performance. Now, this is just purely based on the last performance. Knowing Matondo, he could come out on Saturday, start the game, and not really do too much. It's a bit of a catch-22 with him. We've had the same situation with several players in the team where they look like they're coming onto a game and then kind of fall off a little bit of a cliff. Form is very inconsistent. Matondo's never really been up to speed. He's had time out injured a few times, far too often, personally. So I think that if he had a good long run in the team out on the left, I think that he could be a very good asset for us. But sadly, he does keep breaking down, and his form is just up and down and all around. Don't get me wrong, I'm not singling him out here. He, like many other players in the team, do have the same kind of erratic form at times. It's just something we've had, manager after manager with some players. But I think Matondo could, based on his last performance, could very well be vital out there on the left. because it obviously Hefty will still be at left back, because I don't think Yilmaz will be back just yet. However, he's not going to be out for too long, according to Philippe Clement. So I want to know, obviously, I've started talking about us a little bit more, because it is interesting to see how we will set up. Philippe Clement, has been, he likes a little bit of rotation, doesn't he, at this stage of the season to try and kind of get everyone up to speed. Well, rotation in most positions, bar in behind the striker in that kind of number 10 role. He has stuck with Lawrence to the point of failure, really. I really don't think that's a position that suits Lawrence. We've seen him out on the right previously, and he's been good. He's just not got the pace and the legs for that role, personally. I know you don't always necessarily need legs in that role, but you do need something. You need a bit of an engine room in there. Now, Clement had to leave him out the last game due to a virus and had to put Diamandi there, which is something that a lot of the fans, including myself, have been crying out for. Diamandi's got the creativity to really be in there. He can just take the ball and turn. Something that Glenn Kamara could do on occasion, where he could just take the ball, turn, and then just that single turn will take about 3 players out the game, and there's acres of space in front of them, which is something that's just we really need. We need to be able to do is create space, create opportunities. So I'm hoping that Clement has taken stock from last week and seen that it does work with Diamandi there. So I hope he does keep that. But, I got a question for you guys. Now, let me know on all the socials. Obviously, I'm at the Ibrox channel on Twitter, Facebook, Threads, Instagram. We are just about everywhere, even on TikTok now. And there seems to be a lot of people on TikTok. So thank you if you have been subscribing on TikTok. This video will be out on TikTok and YouTube, as well as the audio feeds. But do you think Clement should persevere with the number 10 that we do have at Rangers? So obviously he wants to have Tom Lawrence in that setup, which doesn't seem to work. Or do we abandon it and revert to some sort of flat 4-3-3? Now, if you want, that is if you want Lawrence accommodated in that setup. So clearly, Clement seems to rate Lawrence highly. Now, Lawrence, he was fantastic when he was at Derby. He's got a good eye for goal from distance. He was their captain. He was fantastic. He was a very good player there. But he just doesn't seem fully right since he's come back from his injury. Now, Clement obviously is, I think, from according to the press a few weeks ago, was slapped a £5 million price tag on him. It's because obviously he doesn't necessarily want him to go, or this could be a bit of a ploy to say at clubs, if you want him, it's 5 million. This could be the reason why he's playing. Maybe he's in the shop window and they are needing to play Lawrence to, hopefully attract a buyer, because, he would give us a good bit of money. And it's one of those. I don't know. I don't know about the politics of how it's working at the minute with everyone. We've got players frozen out the team at the minute, but I'll ask you that question. So if Lawrence is the man for that position in behind the striker, does Clement persevere with the number 10, or does he have to abandon it and revert to a flat 4-3-3 if you want Lawrence accommodated in that setup? So let us know what you think. Do we need Lawrence there? Do we even need Lawrence in the team? No, it's a bit of a difficult one at the minute, but yeah, that's a question to ask you also. Let us know on the socials. Twitter is at the Ibrox channel. And of course, we are on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and the bathroom wall. So let us know. Now, unless Matondo is gone by tomorrow or Saturday, I think he's earned his place out in the left base on the last performance. Obviously, Cortez was spotted in training, as I say, either today or yesterday, but I think he might just not be there just yet because he has just come back. Now, let's look at the back four. We've looked at the midfield. I've not even mentioned up front, really, but it probably will be Cyril Dessers starting. Could be a good game for Danilo in a sense, because it is, it's the team I kind of predict to be relegated. They've just come off of a bad result against Spartans. Do you throw Danilo up there? Probably a good idea. And then bring on Dessers in the second half when they're tiring. It is a possibility. But as we saw last week, Danilo not fully there yet. He had a couple of shots saved. One that came back to him, and I thought he should have finished, but it was a good save from the keeper, Ray, for St Johnstone. So I'm not going to be too harsh on him, and he is coming back from injury. But do you start with Dessers? Do you start with him? Because he'll get you that goal, don't you? You might miss a couple first, but he'll get you that goal. But personally, I think probably should be Danilo to start, see what happens, and then put Dessers on in the second half, possibly. But hey, now back four, that has kind of been picking itself over the past few weeks. Now, Proper was taken off as precaution. It seems with a bit of a back/groin issue. Might be okay. Might need a week or two. It probably was taken off as a precaution from what it sounds like, which, thank goodness, because we're just sick of seeing players getting substituted and then we never see them again because they're injured. Hopefully the former. I hope we see him on the bench. That'd be a positive sign. But I don't know if they want to risk him just yet. It'd be good to see Proper in the back four because, of course, after this game we head over to Parkhead, and you want him to kind of be up to speed and fresh, don't you? So if he is fit, he will start. If he's not fit, it's probably going to be Ben Davies. Obviously, the back four picks itself at the minute. So you'll have Tavernier at the right. You'll probably have Suter next to him. You'll have Davies, and then you'll have Hefty out on the left, and of course Jack Butland in goal because I don't see us randomly sticking in Liam Kelly for this one. So that's kind of just a bit of an assessment I've made on Ross County. Please let us know what you think. This is I thought this was going to be a bit of a bite-sized podcast, just going into a bit of a preview of the Ross County game, but of course it's been going on for about half an hour now. So it's one of them things. Once I got to start talking, I can't shut up. I'm like an old fishwife. So yeah. So that's where we are with Ross County. And my prediction, I think it'll be a 2-0 win. If the goals come early, it could be a landslide, if I'm being honest, but I just don't think we're fully there yet. The creativity is going to come from Czerny, Diamandi, and possibly even Matondo. So I think some of them options now, we are going to create more chances. And I am going to go Danilo for one goal, and I'm going to go Dessers for the other. In a fairly comfortable 2-0 win. I don't see Ross County offering too much. They've scored in 3 games, 1 goal. So, yeah, and they have missed a penalty as well. Don't get me wrong. I say missed a penalty. The keeper saved it. Been a bit harsh, probably, but that's where they're at the minute. They are lacking goals. So, but then so are we. We don't scud any teams. We haven't done that this season. We had our most comfortable win at the weekend, a 2-0 win. So, yeah, so it is. It's a hard one to predict at the minute, especially with the way things are going. Now, there's obviously been some speculation in regards to players. I've mentioned Matondo there with the Blackburn interest. So you never know if there's something in the next couple of days. He might not be in the team for Saturday. I hope that's not the case. But then at the same time, he does need to be moved on now. I think we need to take the money and reinvest there, sadly. Also, Hagi, there is a link now with Rapid Bucharest, and the source has come from a very reliable source. I'm just going to find it on my phone now because I keep forgetting him. I follow him, Romanian journalist. He's absolutely fantastic. And his name will come to me in a second. Emmanuel Rosu. Yes. Sorry if I've butchered that pronunciation, but he deals a lot with Romanian football and has some very interesting articles, actually, that I've read over the past few years since Hagi came to Rangers. And he is very, very much in the know. And it does seem that Rapid Bucharest are lining up a possibility of a transfer. Now, of course, being one of the biggest teams in Romania, Hagi is a massive celebrity in Romania. We saw the images of Hagi's wedding being broadcast live on TV. That's up there with like Charles and Diana's wedding, isn't it? It's like royalty. So that would be a massive signing for them, and I think be one that the fans would enjoy out there as well. And you got to be honest, it's probably good for Hagi as well. He'll be back in his homeland, and he'll be playing regular football because sadly, it just seems he's not in favour at Rangers at all, which is sad because I think he could offer us something. But it's one of them things. Now, that's 2 players that we've been linked with that might be leaving the club. But there's also a player we've been linked with possibly coming in. So this one, I think, appeared late last night. Martin Neto from Benfica, a midfielder, a possibility of a loan deal for him. Looked a good player. He came on against us last year. Was it last year we played Benfica? Yes, it was. And yeah, he looked a very decent player. Obviously, didn't see too much of him, but he looked like a decent player. the YouTube videos look good, but that's always a danger, isn't it? You know, your highlight reel is always going to be the best of the best, so you don't see the worst, do you? But it does that. The positive thing is, it does look like there are movements now for transfers, which is something that we've needed to see because they've ground to a halt over the past few weeks. And we do, as I said in the previous pods, personally, we need a minimum of 3 new players in, one up top, one in the middle, and one at the back. Um, Ideally, 4 to 5. I think we need that little bit of squad depth, but I just don't think we're getting 4 to 5 players. I think, you know, a 3 is probably more realistic, and I think we can just cope with 3. But there we go. That's it. So this is, as I say, this is a brief pod. It's actually longer than some of my other pods. I've been chatting on for about 34 minutes now. But let me know what you think. I'm looking to do more of these preview pods where I solely focus on the opposition, look at their stats, look at the way they're playing, and see where their weaknesses are, so to speak. I could do some more things in depth with tactics. So let us know what you think about it. On TikTok, drop us some comments there. If you're on YouTube, drop us some comments there as well. Or if you're listening on the audio podcast in the audio podcast store, like Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening on Spotify, then just head over to Twitter, onto X, and you know, drop us a message underneath the podcast retweets. I'll retweet the pod when it comes out, so just drop us a message under there, and you know, I'll accept all forms of feedback. Nothing's off limits because you know what, you're the guys listening to this. Let us know what you want to hear. So thank you ever so much for listening. I'm Andrew. I'm going for 2-0 Rangers versus Ross County at the weekend. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this could be our last game at Hampden Park. Nothing's been confirmed officially, but there's been quite a few pictures posted today of Ibrox with the Copeland Road stand, and it looks like all the steel, it looks like that's all in place now. Now, there's a possibility that there's a lot of steel underneath that hasn't been put in yet, but it does appear that the steel is in place now. You can see where the seats will be going, and it does look all nice and fresh and new. So hopefully that's all running on time. The venue hasn't been confirmed for the Dundee Scottish Cup match at the minute. So, sorry, correction, League Cup match, the Premier Sports Cup match at the minute. So, there is, I think that's a possibility that they're looking to confirm venue. This would be good because, of course, European football's around the corner. We don't want to have to be playing games at Hampden, do we? Now, we could ask for dispensation possibly from UEFA, but you know, I don't think we're getting much from UEFA. So hopefully we can be at Ibrox, full house. My goodness, it'd be good to be back, wouldn't it? But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. I'm Andrew. This is the Ibrox Channel podcast, and I'll see you next after the Ross County game. Bye, everyone.